Xbox Game Pass has grown exponentially in the last 12 months, and this is in large part because Xbox has expanded majorly when it comes to their first-party Xbox studios. As of this video, Xbox now owns 23 total studios, and that means more Xbox Game Pass games. Now, I've been doing top 25 Xbox Game Pass games for a while, but because they have so many great games, I feel like it's time to expand and talk about their first-party games specifically. Unlike third-party games, these will pretty much stay in Xbox Game Pass forever. So per usual, I will have a separate top 25 Xbox Game Pass video, and I also have a top 15 hidden gem video that I update every 6 months. Definitely go check those out for more Xbox Game Pass goodness, but today we're going to take a look at the top 25 first-party games available in Xbox Game Pass. These are games either published by Xbox or developed by an Xbox game studio. I really think Xbox might want to think about creating a brand for these games to let fans know. Maybe something like Xbox Originals, similar to something like Netflix Originals. So if anybody from Microsoft is watching this video, you might want to think about that, but regardless, let's get right into the video. And at number 25, I have a game that I feel often goes overlooked, ReCore. Now, ReCore first launched back in 2016 for the Xbox One, developed by the director of Metroid Prime. There were a lot of expectations for this game, but unfortunately at first it did have quite a few bugs and technical issues. This kind of overshadowed its gameplay, but since that point they have re-released it with a definitive edition, fixing much of its launch issues. Now it's actually a pretty good game with solid platforming. I'm not a big fan of the lock-on shooting mechanics per se, but it's got an attractive art style with puzzles and platforming that surely makes up for that. It does feel old school in some ways, and if that's something you're looking for, then ReCore is a solid download. We Happy Few is another game that's often forgotten, and I actually like this game a lot. Much like ReCore, it launched with some technical issues, and the gameplay is a survival type of game with an interesting world. And that right there is exactly why I like this game so much. In a market where stories have become so integral to games, that's what We Happy Few excels at. It's got one of the most atmospheric worlds in any game that I've played, and the story is fantastic. You do play as 3 different characters throughout We Happy Few, and each story is highly engaging. So if you like good stories, you might end up liking We Happy Few. Next up for you zombie fans, I have State of Decay 2. Now, I'm not usually a big fan of zombie games, but State of Decay is an exception. State of Decay gets the zombie apocalypse correct, having you scavenge, managing a community, and of course, fighting off hordes of zombies when need be. In many scenarios, it's best to just avoid zombies as you scavenge for resources. However, there's several different types of zombies to keep you entertained, and from top to bottom, State of Decay 2 is just a fun game. Remedy Entertainment has made a lot of great games in the past, as they excel when it comes to third-person cinematic stories. Alan Wake was one of the best Xbox 360 games in my opinion, and then you have Control from last generation, but Quantum Break is quietly another solid title coming from Remedy. Now this game was being developed at a time when Xbox was trying to incorporate TV into Xbox, so there is actually TV episodes in this game, which is a little different. Now it's still enjoyable, but outside of that, it's about what you would expect from Remedy. Interesting powers, an engaging story, and fun third-person shooting mechanics. It's actually kind of similar to Control, as Control did take some of the ideas from Quantum Break to their next game. Nonetheless, this is a game worth checking out for fans of cinematic game experiences. For years, there's been speculation about Xbox acquiring a Japanese studio, and they finally got that with Tango Gameworks, the developer behind The Evil Within. Now, this is a survival horror game headed by Shinji Mikami, which is well known for his work on Resident Evil and Dino Crisis. Well, once again, he's put out another great horror experience, The Evil Within. However, it's not just spooky, but it's also challenging, and when you combine the two together, that's quite the experience. Truthfully, Pillars of Eternity probably deserves to be much higher on this list, as it is one of the best in its respected genre of all time. It is a little bit more niche, as this is a classic old school RPG, but it really is phenomenal at what it tries to do. It's got a deep and engaging RPG system, you can micro-organize your team in battles, the world is filled with lore, and it has a solid story. Now, you will be reading walls of text as this is common in these type of games, so do keep that in mind. Now, the sequel actually has turn-based combat if you do prefer that, but both of these games are great RPGs for fans of this genre. For those who don't like these type of games though, maybe try it out. The upcoming Avowed is actually from the same world as Pillars of Eternity, and it could help playing through these games beforehand. Battletoads is finally back, and I loved every minute of this game. It is a multi-genre game with platforming, beat-em-up sections, and even your occasional puzzles. I'd rank this near the top of my all-time favorite beat-em-up games. Of course, you also have the infamous turbo tunnels, and even in a different perspective, it's still very challenging. The art style is a little different, but this game is crazy to see in motion. I personally love it myself. My only real complaint about this game is that it doesn't have online multiplayer, but it's still a lot of fun to play by yourself or cooperatively with local co-op. Dishonored 2 is a type of game that promotes creativity in how you play a game. That's all thanks to its brilliant level design. I mean, you can play this game completely the way you want because the way the level is laid out. You can choose pure chaos with some crazy over-the-top abilities, or you can instead go the non-lethal route and do everything with some stealth. No matter what way you want to play, it's a lot of fun. This choice, though, allows for a lot of replayability, especially considering you can choose between one of two characters, each with their own unique abilities. You might find this game so fun, you end up playing both. Wasteland 3 is the perfect example of how Xbox can make games better for these newly acquired studios. Wasteland 3 was a crowdfunded project before Xbox acquired NXL. And while yes, it already looked good, Xbox actually helped fund this game to make it even better by doing things like more voiced dialogue. They essentially made a AAA classic RPG, and this game is a dream for fans of the genre. You can tinker so much with the characters and how you build them. This affects how you approach the world, characters, and combat. It's got a very deep RPG system, and you also have choice that impacts the story and at times does have consequences. Again, this type of game is a little bit more niche, but fans of games like this will not find much better. Oh, and by the way, it's got co-op. Without a doubt, Minecraft is Xbox's most popular IP, spanning across all platforms and reaching hundreds of millions of players across the world. This game has become such a huge success, and Xbox definitely made the right decision in acquiring the IP. Well, now not only do you have access to Minecraft on Xbox Game Pass, but you also have Minecraft Dungeons. This is a surprisingly good dungeon crawler that all ages can enjoy. I also believe it's one of the better cooperative games out right now. As many of you know, I am a big fan of Rare, and you have access to a lot of Rare's classic games on Xbox Game Pass. It's hard for me to just choose one or two games from them though, so we're going to talk about Rare Replay, which is a compilation of their classic games. You have Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Perfect Dark, Viva Pinatas, Cameo, among several others. Now, you can download these individually, which I highly recommend you go do, but all of these games are vastly different and amazing in their own right. There's a reason that all of these games are so fondly remembered all these years later. Insomniac Games is well known for their work on PlayStation, making several exclusive franchises such as Spyro on the original PlayStation, Ratchet & Clank, and also Resistance. In fact, Sony recently acquired Insomniac after developing Spider-Man. Even then though, it was surprising when Insomniac Games teamed up with Xbox to make Sunset Overdrive, which is probably one of the most underappreciated games made for the Xbox One. It plays very similar to some of their past work with creative weapons and gadgets, but they really turned the city into a chaotic but fun playground. You can zip across power lines, jump on trees as if they're trampolines, and even the death animations oozes charm. If anything, this is just a fun game that I would recommend anybody play. Flight Sim is going to be one of those games that you either love or you just don't care about. Not everybody is going to find the same enjoyment with Flight Simulator, but the quality is just so ridiculously good in this game. I mean, the visuals are just insane. It's practically photorealistic. Now, as of this video, it is only available on PC, but we'll be heading to Xbox sometime this summer, where I do expect it to once again wow fans for its visuals on the Xbox Series X. When Sea of Thieves first launched, it was met with a lot of criticism for its lack of content. While the core gameplay was unique and fun, it needed more content to round it out. Well, since then, Rare has been hard at work doing just that, and it has a ton of content now. You can have pets, you can go fishing, take on story quests, there's raids, and so much more. Not only is this a beautiful game to look at, especially on the Xbox Series X, but there's nothing on the market that plays quite like Sea of Thieves. Obsidian has earned the reputation as being one of the best RPG studios in the entire industry. This was well earned, and one of the most recent attempts is one of their best yet, The Outer Worlds. I would almost explain this game as a mix of Fallout with Mass Effect. Well, as it turns out, that makes for a fun combination of both story and gameplay. You can approach this game in how you want. You can be your everyday hero if you want, where you try to be a good Samaritan and save the world. However, if you want to be a bumbling fool, you can do that as well. You have complete control in how your character behaves, as well as how they approach combat. If you like Western RPGs, this is one of the better games out right now. Now, you can swap this one out with The Outer Worlds if you want, but next up I have Fallout 4. Fallout and The Outer Worlds do play very similar to each other, but Fallout is a larger and more expansive game, coming from a AAA budget. It does have a very large world that promotes exploration across its desolate, apocalyptic world. Now, I'm not a huge fan of its story per se, but it shines in the gameplay department, and you seriously might sink hundreds of hours into this game. There's plenty of side quests, there's crafting and looting, lots of enemy variety, and there's even base building. There's constantly something to do in Fallout 4, and if you like the atmosphere, you're gonna like this game. There are several high-profile fighting games out there, but Killer Instinct is truly something special. It is my absolute favorite fighting game of all time for various reasons. First off, there's a wide variety of characters. You can play as an alien, a dinosaur, a boxer, a werewolf, and even a Battletoad. And with each and every fighter, they feel completely different. No matter what playstyle you like, you'll have a character for that in Killer Instinct. I was absolutely addicted to this game at one point in time, and that's because of its competitive play. It's relatively easy to jump into thanks to its forgiving fighting mechanics, but there is a very high skill ceiling for those who do dig deep enough. I'm still kind of hoping for a new KI, so I hope you're listening, Xbox, but the one that's already available still remains as one of the best fighting games on the market. Now, I know Skyrim is a bit older now, but at the same time, it's still one of the best RPGs ever created. I don't know if there's ever been a game that's been able to do this to me the way Skyrim did, but the world itself is so engaging that you may get lost into its side quest before even trying to attempt its main quest line. I believe I played like 30 hours before even trying to do mainline quest, and that was because there's just so much to do in Skyrim. It's just got such a great world to explore, and there's a reason that Skyrim is still considered one of the best in its genre. How Prey manages to go overlooked by so many fans is beyond me. When Xbox acquired Bethesda, there was a lot of excitement for some of their more popular franchises, but Prey ranks right at the top in terms of quality. This is a sci-fi first-person shooter with survival horror elements. It's a well-designed game that rewards players for playing the way they want to. You can of course go in guns blazing, or if you decide you can go in more of a stealth type of way, moving around your enemies instead. Granted, mimics which can shapeshift will always have you on high alert. Prey allows for creativity though, and then there's the visuals. Yes, it's a pretty game as you can see, and as an added bonus, it got a 60 frames per second update on the Xbox Series X. Doom Eternal is not just a good first-person shooter, but it's also a smart, skillful shooter. Of course, it's the Doom that you know and love, and it's extremely fast-paced, and with that, it can be difficult. You're going to need a strategy for every demon and every area that you play. It's also surprisingly good at being a platformer, but Doom Eternal is just so smooth. There is a learning curve for this game as you have a lot of weapons and abilities at your disposal, but when you put it all together, there isn't many games that can feel even remotely as good as Doom Eternal. It blows my mind that HELLBLADE was created by a small team of just 15 to 20 developers. I mean, when you look at this game, you think AAA. It looks absolutely fantastic, and when you play it, it leaves a lasting mark on you with its portrayal of mental illness. In my opinion, Hellblade is one of the best story-driven games from last generation. The hack-and-slash combat is pretty straightforward, but it feels nice. There's some nice set pieces, some good puzzle sections, the facial animations is some of the best in the entire industry, and it just has everything that you want from a single-player game. If you like these type of games, Hellblade is a must-play. Now I'm just kind of waiting for Hellblade 2. Forza has become such a masterpiece when it comes to racing games. Now you have two different types of games here though. You have Forza Motorsports, which is great for fans of racing sims, and then you have Forza Horizon. Now I do prefer Forza Horizon, and it's probably the most fun I've had with any racing game outside of maybe kart racers. What Playground Games did with Forza Horizon 4 was just absolutely brilliant. You can drive around an open world, and with each season, not only does the beautiful scenery change, but it also changes how you drive. As an example, in the winter, rivers may be frozen solid to where you can drive on the slippery ice. This is such a nice touch and makes racing even more diverse. You had to know it was coming somewhere. Halo obviously makes the list. Halo, of course, is the long-running flagship franchise for Xbox, and thanks to Xbox Game Pass, you can play pretty much all of the mainline Halo games, including Halo Wars. Halo Wars is another game that does deserve to be on this list, but my personal recommendation would be to start with the Halo Master Chief Collection. It did have a rough launch with networking issues, but in the long run, it turned out to be a great collection of games. Halo 2 in specific got a big upgrade with it being a remake and having amazing cinematics developed by Blur. And what I've always really liked about Halo is that it's the complete package. The single player is fun by yourself or with a friend, and then the competitive multiplayer is still great after all these years. The original Halo trilogy stands the test of time. These games are still great all of these years later. Much like Halo, Gears of War is the complete package with fun campaigns that can be played by yourself or with a friend cooperatively. You also have Horde mode, escape, and competitive multiplayer. If you want a graphical showcase though, you need to try Gears 5 out with the Hivebusters DLC that comes included with Xbox Game Pass. It looks stunning on the Xbox Series X. It might be the best looking next generation game as of this video. For me though, what always made Gears stand out is its competitive multiplayer. There's nothing on the market that feels quite like Gears of War. That's hard to do in an industry where ideas are constantly being copied and improved upon, but after all of these years, Gears still feels truly special, especially when you know what you're doing. And at the number 1 spot, I have Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Every once in a while, a game can be considered a masterpiece, and Ori is one of those franchises, especially Ori and the Will of the Wisps. While I do recommend playing both, the Will of the Wisp pretty dramatically improves its combat. Yes, this is a Metroidvania type of game, so you can expect its combat to be good along with exploration, but where these games truly shine is with their platforming. It ranks right up there with games like Super Mario Bros. And Rayman. It truly is that good, and really shows with the boss sequences that put your platforming expertise to the test. From top to bottom though, these games are, as I said, a masterpiece. Anyways though, that's it for this video, but if I missed a game that you feel deserves to be on this list, make sure to let me know in the comments below. With that said, make sure to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.